Hello everyone, and welcome to the awesome static posing power of Commander Carl. Hello! Yep, this video is going to take you right back to the point where he's just been undercoated black, and then in between every stage of painting I've taken a couple of minutes to just discuss the paints I'm going to use and the order I'm going to use them. So hopefully, if you're looking to paint this here model that you've got in your Dark Vengeance box, you can at least know, some of the colours that you can use to get your mini looking quite good. I've tried to make it at least approximate to the GW paint scheme with general colours, although inevitably, I'm not an heavy metal painter, and B, there's going to be some things that look slightly different because of different techniques we've used and things, but I still think it's a great looking mini. Your hardest things are probably going to be anything behind this sword here. In terms of painting the detail, that's a bit challenging. Achieving the blending effect on the sword can be quite challenging to do. All it requires is thin layers of paint and patience. Otherwise, it's not particularly horrible mini to paint at all. Best of luck to you. I hope that you find this tutorial useful. Right, prepared to be taken back magically in time to 2 days ago. Right, it's time to begin painting our commander. First up, we're going to start on the power armour, and we're going to get it all coated in a nice coat of Caliban green. Whilst I was waiting for the green to dry, I did the first 2 thin coats of Steel Legion drab on Mr. Commander's robes here. Next up, some Quelia green shade all over the power armour to give it a bit of depth. Then it'll be the 3rd coat of Steel Legion drab just to get the robes looking consistently in the same colour. One fiddly bit I noticed, if you can see, in fact it's going to be very difficult for you to see, but in the GW model, so I'll try to replicate it, in the sort of inner robe here, you can see it better there, that's also sort of the robe colours, so I've just had to sort of squeeze it in there with the paint. But anyway, washing and then my final coat of Steel Legion drab. Okay, one last thing I did before this video is I used some lead belcher just to pop on the metallic details there. Right, next up on the power armour, going to leave the recesses but paint over with a thin coat of Caliban green, then start highlighting with 50-50 mix of Caliban and Warboss, then pure Warboss, and then my final highlight will just be some Warboss and Warpstone Glow. Okay, whilst I'm waiting for layers to dry, I'm going to use some Nuln oil over my metallics to give them a bit of depth. Okay, this is the point I've got the mini to. Give me a chance to have a look at some of the highlights. In the end, just the Warpstone Glow wasn't quite enough for the highlights, so for the very tips of them, the very brightest bits, I mixed half and half Warpstone Glow and Screaming Skull there. And that's what you can see for instance on the tip of the fingers there, on the helmet, just a dot on each boot, that sort of thing. So I'm pretty sorted with the armour now. Next up, we're going to be using Balthasar Gold for all the areas on the mini that are gold. Once I'd got all the base coats for the gold added, my next stage was to think about the robes. I did a mixture of 2 parts Corn Red to 1 part Nagloth Night, and that made a really nice base coat for the robes. Next up, all the areas on the model that are going to be white or grey eventually, that's things like the ropes, the feathers, the wings, some of the Aquila icons. I'm going to paint Codex Grey, use Dawnstone Grey for new paints, and everything that's brown, which is mostly his holster, which you might just be able to make out there, and the strap for his gun, it's going to be painted Rhine Oxide. Okay folks, now I've got those stages done, I'm going to highlight up all the grey areas with Orthwin Grey. Flat areas, like this sort of Aquila pattern on the robe there, I'm just going to highlight up with a brush naturally, slightly thin it down, just put it everywhere but the recesses. More textured areas, like the rope here and the feathers, I'm actually going to do a little bit of a dry brush. on those. I think that will get the natural highlights out a little bit better. Once I've done that, I'm going to take some Mecrite Red. New version of Mecrite Red should be on the screen now. I'm just going to use it to paint the combi gun. Okay, I also added the red that I was using on the bolter. Pop those in his eyes for the first layer there. You might notice, for instance, around the eyes, I've just noticed on the backpack, we're getting a couple of areas that need tidying up, but that's fine. We'll just do that towards the end of painting the mini. Next up, we're going to do our final highlight for the grey-white areas. I'm using Old Skull White. You can use White Scar White. That spill, just highlight along the edges and the tips to get a really nice consistency there. And then I think it'll be time to start thinking about shading up the robes and highlighting the cloak. So I'll let you know what paints we're using for those in a second. Okay, so I highlighted up to white and then in a couple of areas just added a bit of very dilute Nuln oil to separate some little bits of detail out. Next up, we're going to do some shading. So these are washes, but we're not going to put them all over the areas of colour. We're just going to put them into the recesses and where they meet another texture or material. So we're going to use Carroburg Crimson. Excuse me, shall I try saying that again? We're going to use Carroburg Crimson for the cloak, and we're going to use Grax Earthshade for the robes. Okay guys, so now I've highlighted up the cape. Next step is the robes, and it will be Steel Legion Drab mixed with Baneblade, then just Baneblade, then Karak, then some Karak and Screaming Skull. Okay, just give you another look at the highlights. All about slowly mixing in the paints and getting the right mix. There's a couple of places where it is a bit too bright, and what I'll do is I'll put a glaze of the original colour, which is the sort of purpley robe colour, together to get that sorted. Okay folks, with the robe done, it's really time to start thinking about Power Sword now. This is the order of paints. We're going to have Alteot Blue, Health Blue, Temple Guard Blue, Ice Blue, which has a new equivalent I'll pop up on the screen, and Screaming Skull, Uthran Grey to Skull White. Okay, we're going to be using these paints watered down. Firstly the pure paint, then half and half, then pure, then half and half, etc. So I'll see you when that's done. Okay folks, so once I finished the shading of the sword, I just got a teeny bit of Screaming Skull and a teeny bit of Ice Blue and used it to just line and highlight the tips specifically, and then just sort of, as you can see, flit some diagonal lines at that angle across the sword too, to give it more of a sort of metallic shine. Then I just used lead belcher to add the two sort of little power cable things there. Right, very nearly there now, very nearly now there. I'm going to highlight up the gold with burnished gold, new name coming up down the side. Then I'm going to take some Abdon Black and just add a little bit of decoration to the feathers, just to the ends of them there. So I'll see you when that's done, because I'm pretty sure we're nearly there. Woohoo! Okay, so we cleaned up any time you had paint that was obviously on the surface it shouldn't have been, using the correct colour. With my Micron Arts pen, I've done little scribbles on the scrolls and on the script, and I've painted the base Mechanicus Grey. When it dries, that'll get some, again I was going to say Devlin Mud, but it's not Devlin Mud. That's going to get an Grax Earthshade wash. Then I'm going to thin down some Grax Earthshade and just glaze the scrolls and the purity seals with that. Then it's just going to be Rhinoxide around the edge of the base, because that's how I finish off these minis. and Master Carl is going to be done, and that's going to be very exciting. So, see you then. Okay, and here you can see the finished model. Freshly applied coat of Rhine oxide onto the rim of the base. Top of the cork has been dry brushed with some grey and some shadow grey. And yeah, he's done. So, hope you enjoyed that. Hope it might have given you a bit of inspiration or some ideas. Hope if you try to use them that you end up with a mini that you're really happy with. Okay, see you later guys, bye.